All right, what have we got here?
Looks like we have about 20 participants so far, and we'll just give it like one more minute, Mark, and then we should go ahead and get started.
Sounds good. Thank you, Daniela, for putting this together.
You're welcome.
Hit Mace.
Is she on her way? Don't know.
Hey, girls. Come here, Mace.
All right, we should get started. What do you think?
Yes, I think you should go ahead.
All right. Well, on behalf of Talia and myself, we'd like to welcome you to this morning's version of Good Morning Healdsburg. We are fortunate to have with us Margaret Sluyk, who is the Reach for Home Chief Executive Officer. I don't know how Margaret has time to meet with us, given all of the things she does in addition to running Reach for Home. She, of course, leads an organization, its programming, vision, and funding raising efforts provide housing for everyone. She also serves on the Sonoma County Coalition Board, the Center for Volunteer and Nonprofit Leadership Board of Directors. She's with the Junior League of Napa Sonoma and is a member of the Leadership Santa Rosa Steering Committee. She also, she has a BA in English, an MA in Management, certified fundraising executive credentials, and 20 years in business development and management experience. So we and Reach for Home are very fortunate to have Margaret with us. And unless somebody else has anything to add at this point, I think I'd like to go ahead and introduce Margaret and have her make her presentation. Margaret, thank you for being with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for being here. Couple of things before I get started. One is that I don't know how many of you all have allergies right now, but mine have decided to act up this morning pretty bad. So I'm out of Kleenex and have a roll of toilet paper sitting here. So if I just want to fully disclose that so you're not like, what's going on? And then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here for a slideshow that I have put together for everybody. So thank you for your patience in dealing with my allergy issue. Let me see if I can get this screen to work here. To do slideshow. Whoop. Wrong button. There we go. There we go. Can everybody see that okay? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thanks again, everybody. And I know there are a couple of people here, particularly council members and Mayor Higley. This is similar to the presentation that you just heard. So hopefully I don't bore anybody too much, but I'm going to go over some information about Reach for Home and then take some questions and just give you as much information as I can about what we're doing. So we launched recently, actually last October, we kind of pre-launched it, our Journey to Zero campaign. And what Journey to Zero means is that Northern Sonoma County, hopefully within the next 3 years, will be at functional zero with our homelessness. What functional zero means is that when somebody becomes homeless, it is rare and brief. So we have a system in place that when someone becomes unsheltered, we can get them rehoused within 30 to 60 days. And so that is our goal right now, is to work towards getting to functional zero. In order to do that, we have to solve for the huge chronic homeless population that we have had in northern Sonoma County for many, many years. And chronically homeless means that someone has been homeless for at least a year and they have some sort of a disability. And I would say around 90% of the individuals who are homeless in northern Sonoma County are chronically homeless. So these are people who have been homeless for a long time, a lot of them 20 plus years. So we need to help those people so that we can kind of level, and then we need to stop people from becoming homeless. So you'll hear a lot about that in the presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. Reach for Home is actually looking at changing our mission statement. Right now, our mission statement is to end homelessness in northern Sonoma County. I think we all realize that we're never going to completely end homelessness. People are always going to fall out of housing for some reason or another. So we are looking at changing our mission to actually end and prevent chronic homelessness in northern Sonoma County, but to have that system where if someone becomes unsheltered, we can help scoop them up or to keep them housed in the first place, and really focus on homeless prevention, which you'll hear more about. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. We started 10 years ago as a part of St. Paul's Episcopal Church. We're super happy for the work that they do. They still do the shower ministry and everything. About 10 years ago, they realized after running the Victory Apartments that it was just a lot for them and for a small church, and that it really needed the focus of a nonprofit. And so that's where we were born, was from St. Paul's, and their vestry members were some of our first board members and continue to sit on our board. So we're excited to celebrate our 10th anniversary. The programs we have are our street outreach program. Over the last 3.5 years, this program has really shifted, and partially because of the L&M Village and having an actual housing option in northern Sonoma County. Before, we didn't really have a lot of options. So when we did our street outreach, it was, here's some food, here's a tent, here's a tarp. But we would get people into coordinated entry, which is the countywide system to help people find housing. But there weren't any immediate there was nothing immediate to offer anybody. So a lot of hope had been lost, and there really wasn't a lot we could do but hand out tarps and tents and hope that people could get housing somewhere, in the county. And if something opened up at Victory, maybe there, but really there weren't a lot of options. Now all of our street outreach is extremely housing focused. So we still give out tarps and tents when needed, but with that tarp or tent, it's what step can we help you take? How can we help you take a step towards your housing goals? Would you consider the L&M? What would you consider? And so we're building out a system where we know everybody's wants, needs, so that we can then help them meet those wants and needs. And they're way more likely to be successful. A person is way more likely to be successful if they're in the community that they identify with and have lived in for several years, and if they can get the resources that they need. We have our mental health support services. This has been added as of December. We were able to hire a licensed clinical social worker, and she is the director of mental health services, realizing that homelessness is a lot to do with mental health. And even if someone is housed and going through an eviction process, they might need some mental health support. And in this county, it can take several months to get mental health support. So if someone is needing mental health support, we realize the value, especially with the unsheltered community, that support should happen right away, within days. If not, people decide, well, I don't really need it. I'm fine now. I don't really want to go to the doctor, get a referral, go again. It's a lot for someone who's unsheltered. So now we have a licensed clinical social worker, and the Healdsburg Police Department has Jeff McGee, who's also a licensed clinical social worker. So we actually have a great partnership with the Healdsburg Police Department. So that gives us 2 licensed clinical social workers who can go out and help people on a daily basis. And we're looking to expand that program and actually start an internship program. So that's one of the pillars of what we do. Our housing services with case management, that's the Victory Apartments, our interim housing, all of our different housing comes with full scale case management services. And then we have always had a homeless prevention component to our program. However, we have expanded that currently with the help of a grant from Providence. The county is also expanding their homeless prevention services. So between those, we are going to be able to offer case management to people experiencing potential evictions, where the case manager can come in and really look at the root cause of why the person is behind on their rent or why they're facing the eviction, so that we can help get them back on their feet and it doesn't become a cycle where they are just needing rental assistance over and over and over again. So this is something that we have just started piloting with the case management component probably about 3 months ago. Unsheltered populations in northern Sonoma County. So in 2020, we had about 205 people based on the formal county point in time count that's conducted every January. And at our last formal point in time count, which was 2023, 2024 is getting ready to be released here probably within the next month, we were at 103. So once we saw that we could reduce homelessness by 50%, we thought, okay, well, if we can reduce it by 50% when it was at 205, and now we have the L&M, we think it's pretty possible to reduce it by another 50% because now that's only 50 people. So that's where our Journey to Zero plan came up with that I'll share with you. But this has been everybody. This has been the city council, the county, all of you on this call who have helped support us in doing this. And we're just going to keep going and just get to where we're at functional zero. So the L&M Village was really the catalyst to start being able to reduce the unsheltered population in northern Sonoma County. We opened in November of 2022. We have 22 units, but we can double people up in some of those units. So there have been times when there have been up to 24 people there. And so far we have helped 63 chronically homeless individuals, 24 of which have secured permanent housing. 8 are currently in different long-term interim housing. We have been able to acquire some other housing units, which you'll hear about later on. And so we use the L&M as a stabilizer, a stepping stone. And then we work with each individual to see what makes sense for the next step. Does it make sense to go to a little bit of a more independent interim housing program, or does it make sense to go directly into some permanent supportive housing, or maybe it's completely independent living? It just really depends on each individual person and where they're at in their journey. We have had 15 that we have exited back into being unsheltered for various reasons. Some people self-exit and decide, you know what, I'm just not ready. We have had behavioral exits. When we have a behavioral exit, typically what we will do is we will have the person take a break and go, I mean, barring it's not anything violent or something that we need to be careful with. We do partner with the Healdsburg Police Department in those types of situations, which we have had very few. But in a normal behavioral exit, we will have someone leave for 2 weeks and say, look, we're holding your room. Your behavior is not appropriate. You meet with your case manager, meet with our licensed clinical social worker, and you can come back. And let's just hit a reset button. You know, let's just start over again. It's totally fine, but you have to be ready with your behavior in order to be in the program. So of those, 7 of them did make exits, but we were able to still help them. You know, even when someone exits, we don't just let them go. Our street outreach team gets a warm handoff and they still work with everybody. So because of that, 7 of those 15 people are now permanently housed despite being exited. And then several of them have returned and have had that second or third chance. Some people, it takes 3 chances, 4 chances, and now they're permanently housed. So it's just making sure we're meeting people where they are, but also holding people accountable to behaviors when necessary, to make sure that when they do get independent housing, that they don't lose that housing, because this is just a way to help train people. How do you be a good neighbor? How do you live independently in a house? It's just a completely different way of living. 61 individuals that have been at the L&M have increased their income, and this is through various methods. First and foremost, we get everyone signed up on CalFresh because everybody qualifies. They're all chronically homeless individuals. We look at, do they qualify for Social Security because of their disability? Because everyone has some sort of a disability who's at the L&M, because it is for chronically homeless individuals. And then we look at employment. Right now, we really do need more job opportunities that are extremely flexible for people who could do landscaping and that sort of thing. So if anyone knows of an opportunity, I know that opportunities have come from this group in the past, and at times we're not ready. Well, right now we have some people who are ready. So if anyone has anything, just feel free to let me know. You've probably heard a lot about SIAR. That has been a huge focus for us over the last few months. We were able to secure a 2.7 million 3-year grant through the state. That grant included over $1 million to purchase some units or a house. So we were able to purchase a house in Windsor that can take at least 6 people at a time for permanent housing. And that really is where we are and you'll see that at the end of the presentation too, is we really need more permanent housing in Windsor and in Healdsburg. So that was part of the grant. It also included staffing for 3 years of case management to keep people housed once they're off the river. It included all the cleanup of the river, which we've been partnering with Russian river keepers. It increased our mental health support and allowed us to hire the director of mental health support. We have 2 individuals left. Our goal was May 31st. We are 2 people away. So we did not, unfortunately, completely meet our goal, but we started with over 42 or around 42. I say plus or minus because people, obviously kind of come and go. But we have 2 people left out there, and we are diligently working with them and starting to work on some no trespass orders and stuff like that. The one person is struggling to get an identification and is sort of giving up at this point, and the other person has just dug their heels in. So people always ask me, how many people don't even want housing? Like, how many people are just choosing this as their lifestyle? And if you use SIAR as an example, literally 1 person, because the other one we can't put him in a hotel and we're having some issues getting his ID. So statistically, a lot of people really do want housing. And I would say this is a great sample size because these are people who have been homeless for 5 to 20 to 30 years. Like, these people who are on the river have been there a really, really long time. And for us to be able to get 40 of them, give or take, off the river in a couple of months by finding individual solutions, it is a really big feat. And I think it speaks volumes to the question I get with how many people really just want to be homeless. Our partnership with Russian River Keepers has been extremely good. We came up with a plan early on in what we were doing, where when someone came off the river, we would have them sign an agreement that their camp could be cleared. So every single camp, minus the 1 or 2 that are left, have been cleared or in the process of being cleared. I believe there are now up to 14 40-yard dumpsters that they have been able to clear from the river. And they are still working on deconstructing things. There was a big tree house that's taking time to deconstruct. I think everyone has probably heard about the stone house or the rock house. That's going to be a little hard to deconstruct. So the next step in all of this is working with the city, the county, the police departments, SIAR themselves, because they do still own some of the land and are renting it, really to find out what are the mitigation steps needed for all of us to make sure that the river stays clean going forward. So there's some fencing that we've heard might help. We've got funding for that. We might be putting more fencing in at Kinley. Obviously, we can't fence the whole river. So it's a tricky place, right? I mean, it ebbs and flows. So I think it's pulling all of the municipalities together and figuring out together, how can we diligently make sure that if someone starts camping there, that we can get them to move along or to find a housing solution for them in a timely manner so that it's not 20 years later. So that's kind of where we're at. And it's not going to be an easy solution. I know that's a big question I get, is how are you going to keep this from happening again? And honestly, in order to keep it from happening again, it's going to take even when we're at functional zero, it's going to take street outreach workers being out there diligently every day. And anytime we see a new person, making sure that we have a solution for them, or making sure that we can encourage them to leave the river right away. So that's where we're at with SIR. So how did we get there? I think I've talked a little bit about this already, but we basically have what's called a by names list, and the county has went to this structure as well. So we are the sub-regional coordinator of the county, North County by names list. So we have a list of every single unsheltered individual, what they're willing to take, what disabilities they have, do they have pets, what types of things do they need in order to be successful in housing, where are they willing to take housing? So we work one by one, each individual working on a solution, and we have caseloads of about 10 to 20 for each street outreach worker at a time. And then we empower the individuals to work on their personalized plans of action to get into housing. And sometimes that takes, a little bit of give and take. So someone might need storage. Okay, great. We would be happy to help you with some storage, but what's your next step towards your housing goal? How can we help you? Can we take you to get your ID? Can we put you in a hotel for a little bit and to get stabilized and see how you feel coming in? Anything we can do to get someone to dip their toe into making that step to coming in. And that can be hard because psychologically speaking, there are a lot of studies that this is like Munchausen, right? Where you start to identify with your captor. So people who have been unsheltered for a long time start to normalize that's what that's their survival tactic, is to normalize the fact that they're unsheltered. And it becomes hard to then become sheltered, just like it's hard to leave your captor. So there's a lot of psychology behind it, but we really just try to have everyone dip their toe in if they're feeling hesitant. Each person has social services in place that are necessary, including that case management. And then we track and maintain contact. So we have realized that the people who are from Northern Sonoma County, who we get housing for down in Santa Rosa, even though they have case management down in Santa Rosa, a lot of times at their housing solution, we still stay in contact with that person because we have seen time and time again that the person falls out of housing for some reason. Maybe they violate something, maybe they just decide it's not a fit. They will come back to Northern Sonoma County. So in order to keep our population at functional zero and to keep chipping away at functional zero, we actually stay involved with the person no matter where they end up, to make sure that they have the resources they need, to make sure if they're about to fall out of housing that we can step in and offer as much resources as we can to keep them housed. So that's kind of how we get here and how we got there and all those sorts of things. These are our different housing units that we have, just to give you an idea of our housing landscape. We never have enough permanent supportive housing, so that's where we're at right now. But we have the 22 interim units at the L&M, 11 permanent units at Victory Studio Apartments. We have 5 permanent supportive housing units in Cloverdale, 11 flexible units in Cloverdale that we can use for permanent supportive housing, interim housing, whatever we might need to use it for. And then now we have the 5 units, which actually can become 6. There's a big master bedroom for a couple or a family. We've had a family actually staying in Windsor already. So we can kind of flex that 5. And then aside from our housing, we partner with other agencies throughout the county through coordinated entry. We use housing vouchers, family reunification, and pretty much any individualized solution that we can verify will result or is very highly likely to result in permanent housing. So we will give people bus passes to go to another location across the country if we can call and verify that there is a permanent solution. We don't just give people bus passes for free vacations. Like, that's just not how it works. But we will verify that there's a permanent solution, and we are more than happy to help that person get where they need to go. Here's how functional zero is possible. Functional zero is possible because we had 103 in our 2023 point in time count. Right now, we are going to do an informal count. The formal count that's going to come out will probably tell us that we are still at about 103 to 105. It's going to be pretty flat. I'm pretty sure. I was at the count and it seemed pretty flat. So be prepared to see a flat number this year. But that was before we cleared SIR and before we housed all the people I'm talking about. So we think with pretty accurate degree of accuracy, we're at 70. If we're at 70 now, we can be at 35 by the end of next year. And then in 2026, hopefully be at functional zero. So this is our path. We feel like it's doable with the support of everybody. I think we can get there. So this is how we've built our plan. And I know I'm out of time. What's next? Get the word out to landlords about housing vouchers. If anyone knows of permanent supportive housing solutions in Healdsburg, Windsor, let us know. And we are wholeheartedly shifting our resources as we start to get towards functional zero to keeping people housed and homeless prevention. So that's kind of our next steps. And then I'm happy for any questions. If anyone wants a tour of the L&M, I'm completely open to giving you a tour. And then we have our Harvest of Hope coming up September 29th. So thank you so much for having me here. I'm happy to answer questions if there's time. I'll leave that up to the chamber.
Okay, well, thank you, Margaret. Hey, I have a question for you. On the 105 people that we've kind of had stacked, is there a number of those that are rotating through? It's not like the same 105 all the time, correct?
No, it's pretty stable, actually. It's pretty much the same 105. Yeah, which is why we're pretty sure that it has decreased. People in Northern Sonoma County, we do get a few transients here and there that kind of pop through. But with a partnership with the Healdsburg Police Department and with our street outreach team, when we see someone new, we're like, oh, what are you, brought you here? Why, where are you on your way to? How can we help you, like, get to where you're going? Like, I feel like we have kind of a good rhythm with, especially with Jeff McGee, and encouraging people to kind of keep moving on. Like, okay, like there really aren't services here for people who are not from Northern Sonoma County. The L&M is only for Northern Sonoma County people. So, yeah, those people that are in those numbers are people we've known for years, for the
Okay.
most part.
And Northern Sonoma County, again, is it Windsor North?
Windsor North, yes. Mm-hmm.
I see we have a question from Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, first of all, thank you, Margaret, for all that you do. Your patience and persistence and effectiveness, we just really appreciate it as citizens and business owners in Healdsburg. Thank you so much. I have a couple of questions about funding for Reach for Home. You make it really easy to make a regular contribution, and I'm not sure that residents are really aware of how easy it is. So often we're approached by homeless people who ask for a handout. And personally, I feel by doing it through the mechanism that you've provided, that I have a way to contribute to their well-being without being on the spot when someone is asking me for money. So I'd really like to see that be better known within the community. And also, I just wanted to say, I saw a really innovative solution with another municipality where they had repurposed parking meters to make it possible for people to make a donation to homeless services within that town. It was like a way for people to just put money with their debit card or credit card or whatever. I don't know if the city of Healdsburg and the civic leaders on this call have considered that, but it seemed like a really interesting solution for that. And I wonder, Margaret, have you heard of that? Is that something that's done in other places that's been helpful?
I haven't heard of it, but I want to do it. That sounds really neat. I mean, I would make a donation just because it's kind of different. But yeah, that's great. Thank you. I'm going to explore that for sure. It seems
Well,
easy.
it's also a way for visitors to contribute if they want to. I mean, it's one of the things we don't want the visitors to Healdsburg, because tourism is such a big part of our economy. We want them to feel comfortable too, but they may want to contribute in some way, and it might be a way for that to happen easily. So thank you so much.
Thank
They'll
you.
probably need to be other than parking meters because we don't have them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Although that might be kind of fun if we get one from somewhere else. What is this? We don't have parking meters here.
Talia?
Go ahead and let Matt, because he had his hand up first.
Okay,
I'll-
Matt.
Thank you.
Sure, thanks. A couple questions just to start off with, Margaret. So say if we know someone who could really use your guys' services, what's the best way to get them to you? Is it best by introduction, or have them reach out to you and fill out a form online, or what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so info@reachforhome.org is a great way, because I get those come directly to me, and then I can kind of steer them, if they're housed and they need help staying housed, then I can get them to the the homelessness prevention department. If they're on the street and they need housing, I can kind of parse them out. So info@reachforhome.org is a great way. And
Okay.
then, we do have our website, reachforhome.org. And calling is fine too. However, our staff a lot of times are out in the field. So a lot of times you leave a message and we'll call you back. So the email's the best way.
Okay. And are there any big differences that you can mention between you and say like the Redwood Gospel Missions Shelter, emergency shelter program that they have, and why we might steer one client to this direction or that? Or can you speak anything on that?
Yeah, we partner really closely with all of the other shelters. So, Redwood Gospel is a little different because they are religion based, and
Sure.
I think there's some different components there. But we constantly partner with all of the different shelters. The thing that makes ours unique is it's for individuals from Northern Sonoma County. So we try to help people from Northern Sonoma County with the L&M solution so that we can help case manage them while, here we know them. It just makes it easier to help get them to permanent housing. But when we're full, or if the L&M's just not a solution because maybe some behavior issues or health concerns, then we would, partner with the other shelters to help. But really,
Okay, perfect.
L&M is just like all the other shelters. It's just for Northern Sonoma County.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Talia?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions, Margaret. I think a couple clarifying questions. At the beginning, you mentioned that you need job opportunities and you mentioned landscaping and so forth. I've got plenty of landscaping at my house, at the chamber, at other places, but would these people that are the unhoused be somehow, like, would you be liable for any of the work or things that they did? And we also, that brought me to the fact, and I think Will may still be on the phone, but in the beginning, you were talking about having some of the businesses partner. So from the Chambers of Commerce perspective, it was like, was that more skill building than job opportunity type of things? This was
So at the
before L&M was even approved. So
got it. Yeah, I think that like for example, I think it was Will Seppi had a great idea of having people help sweep and clean up in front of stores and stuff like that. Those types of programs came out, probably 2 years ago before the L&M, and it was just really hard to get them up and running because we didn't have people in a central location. They weren't stabilized. It takes several months for someone to just get used to being inside. They leave their doors and windows open. It's claustrophobic. So now is a great time to start re-exploring some of those opportunities. So that was what I was referencing earlier in the call. As far as direct work, they're not licensed contractors. So you do have to take that into account. And Reach for Home doesn't necessarily have any insurance that would cover it. So, you would want to be careful. It would be like hiring an individual, contributor, and that sort of thing. So it does make it a little tricky, for sure, because they're not necessarily individuals who can work 40 hours a week and show up every day from 9 to 5. Like that's just not where they're at with the disabilities that they have. So
right, just curious from a vetting perspective if they've been, vetted to do something like that. And, I'm just, even at our
Yeah.
Chamber of Commerce, we have little things around that need to be taken care of here and there, small things, but is there any safety factors or anything that we would need to be concerned with?
Yeah. So, if someone gets referred to employment, we would work with the individual and with the employer to make sure that they're a match. We know the people fairly well. They're living at the L&M and we're providing them with daily case management. So if there were concerns, we obviously wouldn't put ourselves or them in that situation, but they're also people. So, it's probably about as big of a risk as you would take with hiring anyone you would hire. It's always a risk, but we're not going to send someone to a job location that we don't feel is a fit for them or a fit for the location, because we want people to be successful, and that would not set someone up for success.
Okay.
So yeah, and if they're behaviorally inappropriate, they would have been exited from the L&M at that point anyway. So
Okay, great. And then I had a question on the people per unit. Currently at L&M, it's 22 rooms, but aren't there 2 people per unit that can be in there?
Not always. We only partner people up who are already with each other. There was one situation where there was a mom and a daughter who agreed to share a room. We are really careful to not double people up if they're not married or long-term relationships or family member, because the rooms are extremely small. Some of the rooms are a little bigger, but I don't know how many people have stayed at the L&M, but the rooms are not super big. So if you're going to put two people in a room for 6 months or however long, they're staying there, I mean, imagine living in a hotel room by yourself for 6 months and how small that room is, and now add another person. So we're very cognizant, again, about the success of the program and making sure that people aren't getting on each other's nerves and adding to the stress. So we don't double up all the rooms, only the bigger ones, and only with people that they know.
Okay, and my last question was just on Tuesday night, you guys had discussed having a room for an officer. Is that because someone needs to be there overnight? Because I know we already have a schedule for police that are over there, that they have to be there a certain amount of time.
Yeah, great clarifying question. So we always try to keep space open for police referrals. So it's not for the police officer, but Jeff McGee, for example, ran into this gentleman who was unsheltered with dementia, and he just thought he needed to be in Cloverdale or Healdsburg. I mean, he couldn't remember why, he didn't know who he was. We did not want to lose this individual because he didn't seriously needed help. We had to deal with adult protective services, and we had to deal with the hospital, and it was quite the process, but that's what those rooms are for. So we were able to take him in and allow him to stay at the L&M for a few nights because he was unsheltered, and we felt that he was an imminent risk of being harmed or hurting, not hurting others, but just because of his dementia, he wasn't making safe decisions for himself. So just didn't know where he was and stuff. So those are what those rooms are for, is if the police departments have someone that they feel, is behaviorally appropriate, but they just need a night or two for some reason, we do make space for that. And even if we're at full capacity, we do have a multi-purpose room. We have cots ready to go. If there's a fire evacuation or, some sort of an emergency and we're full, we still also have that capacity if we had to in an emergency.
Okay, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Talking about the dementia, I noticed you mentioned almost all of them have some type of disability. I'm sure that's extremely challenging to overcome and get them, up and running again. Is there one or more types of disabilities that are more prevalent?
Yeah, I mean, primarily everyone has a mental health disability, hands down. And then on top of that, a lot of people have different physical disabilities. So once they come in, they're getting their eye surgery, they're getting, their cancer treatments that they've been putting off. There's a handful of those things that happen also. So pretty much everybody has some form of a mental health disability, because even just being homeless for 2 years, or 3 can get you there. And then on top of it, some of them had that, and that's kind of why they're unsheltered. So, and then there's just a myriad of physical disabilities depending on the person. I can't off the top of my head think of what specifically they are, but, some people have back issues and can't walk, I mean, it's just depends. We're not able to take medically fragile individuals at the L&M because we don't have like 24-hour nursing or anything like that. So the individuals we have at the L&M specifically are people who have some form of a disability, but they are able to complete their adult daily living skills. So because it wouldn't be safe if they could.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions for Margaret? If not, we'd like to thank you so much for coming and for everything you're doing for the community. What you've done in reducing the number of homeless and for them and us is wonderful, and we really appreciate all of your time and efforts.
Well, thank you to everyone here for helping make it happen. We just really appreciate the community and the city council, and thanks for having me. And if you need anything at all, or after this, you have a question, Margaret at reachforhome.org. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'd be happy to give anyone a tour. Would like to see the L&M.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. David, you got an update for us on what the city council's doing out there?
Sure, I'd be happy to give a quick little update, kind of in the lines of the housing piece. So I think I'll just talk in general, but I think everybody's pretty aware of how aggressive our council has been in trying to, address all the housing needs over the number of years, whether it's, working with and helping to elevate Reach for Home, which has been mutual. They've been very helpful in us being able to apply for and get some grant funding to acquire some apartments. Integral part of a lot of the affordable housing that's coming down the pipeline that's income restricted. But we've had I think everybody's pretty aware, we've had an issue with the middle income piece. And so on the next council meeting agenda, which is June 17th, I encourage everybody that wants to get the full rundown and details of everything that, kind of a summary of all the meetings, is a proposal to amend the GMO to exclude basically North Street, along the Healdsburg Avenue from like North Street up to the community center, the Chap area, which is kind of south of the roundabout around the SMART train, and then the south of the bridge area. And there'd be a restriction that it'd be multifamily only. So our goal was to try to get multifamily housing, which is, there's been no market rate units built since the GMO went in place back in 2000, so 24 years. Parallel to that, we've also talked to, we mentioned that, nothing can happen without zoning changes. So that'd be a parallel track that we'd be working on. So you'll hear more about that at the next council meeting. So I would definitely come to that. And then following that, we have scheduled a housing and GMO forum on the 26th. So it's a little bit outside of the council kind of forum where a little bit more can be discussed, and hopefully, there'll be something here that, for the public to be able to get a little bit more detail down the road once everything is all set and finalized. So we've got that. The other big one from our last meeting and was our budget. We finalized our budget, and there's a lot of stuff in there that I think is really exciting. And so kind of the key areas that are, like what's in the budget, we've got, the growth management ordinance outreach, we've got public safety cameras, a type 1 engine replacement. So fire safety and public safety and infrastructure is big, and also deferred maintenance was a big focus of this last budget. Facility assessments, we've got some deferred maintenance in community services, the Foley Pavilion, including some IT infrastructure, which would be really helpful as they start doing the farmers market, and everybody, and I know when I go down, I don't really carry around cash. So I guess you could get what are they called, Chris? The market bucks. I think the little, you can go get market bucks to buy right. Stuff. But with it's really important to have real strong Wi-Fi and IT access in some of those spots for all the vendors. Arts and Culture Commission, we're going to form that. And then we restored some frozen utility positions, and we're also looking at some electric meter reading improvements. So a lot of things that are going to have, they're not super glamorous. I mean, to council members, these are really exciting things, but they're not necessarily the flashy things, but they have a real big impact. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is the capital improvement projects. So I just wanted to read off a list so everybody's aware of what's coming down the pipeline here. The first is March Avenue rehabilitation. So we've allocated $2.4 million for that. That's something we've been wanting to do for a while. I see Elizabeth clapping hands, but it is something that we hear the frustrations with streets, and there's a lot that needs to be done, and we try to do our best to go through and prioritize. And if it's not in this budget cycle, then we kind of have like a little marker. All right, let's try to get this going. And so March Avenue, Healdsburg Avenue, complete streets, that's $15.4 million, includes a big chunk from grant funding. Grove Street Improvement Neighborhood Implementation Plan, that's $3.3 million. Ward Street Neighborhood Revitalization, that's $1.5 million. Badger Park redevelopment, that's $2 million for improvements at Badger Park. Saggio Hills Park is 7.7 million. A lot of this is funds that it's grant funding that we need to use for whether it's very specific, whether it's pathways or what were the I don't remember the exact. Jeff, can you help me out here? Because I had to recuse on the Saggio Hills one, but I think it was like paths, and it's very specific what we need to use the funds for.
Yeah, some isn't, but we got 3.5, give or take, is dedicated specifically toward building the multi-purpose path that would run all the way from Healdsburg Avenue along Paso Aqua and connect back into Parkland Farms. So we have dedicated money for that, and we're trying to prioritize getting that done.
Yeah, so that we've got some undergrounding of utilities, and that's a big public safety issue. I think we're all, we already see fires over in Napa County, so we're all very aware of that. So we're trying to be proactive on some of that. Brown Street, we've got some water and sewer replacement, so there might be some inconvenience for the residents there, but when you're talking about how old these pipes are, and this goes right to part of the reason that we had to go back and relook at the water rates to cover specific things like this, water and sewer replacement. And then same with Healdsburg Avenue, there's some water and sewer replacements. That's $2.9 million. So we have a lot going on the capital project side. And so keep in mind, the next council meeting is a good one to show up to, and then June 26th. So we've got a couple of key dates to keep in mind before the next Good Morning Healdsburg meeting. Is there one in July or no? I don't know yet.
Yeah, it's every other month, right? And I'm not sure.
Is it every other? Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
every other.
Yes.
The next is in August.
Okay. And that's it. Oh, and so on capital projects, so in the speed point, I wanted to just reemphasize, I went to the Prune Packers game last night and was lucky enough to be able to throw out the first pitch. But when I was out there, if you look on the streets, you see some striping. And I'm pretty sure that's the purple pipe. They're striping it out to bring the purple pipe in that project is on. And that's something we talked about since I think the first conversation that I had was on council in 2017. And it's something that we approved not too long ago. And there's already spray paint on the streets of, that project moving forward and cruising. And that's 25 million gallons of drinking water that's going to be replaced with reclaimed water for our residents. So there's a lot. Again, these aren't the glamorous, flashy things, but it's the stuff that as council members, we get really excited about because it has such a huge positive impact on the community.
When we talked about the purple pipe last time, I think the city itself, just in its parks and what have you, had used for about 35 million gallons or something. And so are you still concentrating on using it for those areas, or are you going to be providing it to citizens as well?
Well, so both. So there won't be individual hookups, but there's an area where residents can go and fill their tanks and have it delivered or whatever. That'll be in town, so you don't have to go clear out to the water treatment plant to go get it. But the goal is right now there's a lot that's being irrigated, whether it's the golf course, the cemetery, some of the fields, that can be replaced with reclaimed water. So it serves two purposes where we can, number one, dispose of it during the summertime when we can't discharge it into the Russian River. But more importantly, it reduces the amount of drinking water that is currently being used for just irrigation.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So that's huge. And especially when during the drought, if you recall, we had to make some tough decisions, and there was a lot of discussion about, well, why are these fields green and everything else is brown? And because some of the fields really get used a lot by the community and kids and sports events and things like that. So it was a decision of like, all right, we need to allocate where, what we're going to focus on, what we just let die. And so this is going to be huge, that it's 25 million gallons that's going to be, saved with this. To your point, initially, it was 35 million because we wanted to bring it all the way up to the community center. We didn't get the grant funding to do it, but we got enough to be able to bring it in to have this huge impact. That's that great. I think is positive, especially as we're looking at, multifamily housing, which is extremely efficient. I think the number I saw, like 25 million gallons, equals about like 800 apartments, multifamily units. So that right there, when people say, where's the water coming from? Well, it's coming from not from the purple pipe, but what used to come into town that's now being replaced by purple pipe.
Perfect. All right. Jeff, anything that you'd like to add for us?
Thank you. I'll be quick. You got a good update there. First off, I'll just echo the thanks and appreciation for Reach for Home. I don't like to think about where we'd be as a community without such a good partner working with us on these issues. I was in a conversation with somebody the other day about innovation and risk-taking in government, and I've over the years perfected my stump speech pretty well, and we're not the place to be a laboratory and be doing things that are really uncertain and untested. But I also, in doing that, thought back to the L&M project, and most of us hadn't worked on a project like that before. There was immense criticism. It was a moment of real courage for the city council. And there was a lot of concern that it would be a magnet for more homelessness, for crime, for blight. And instead it's not 100% perfect, but it's been really, really successful. And the lion's share of the credit goes to Reach for Home, of course, in operating that. So we all know we have a ton more work to do on that front, but we're really blessed to have a partner that's been so capable and so effective. So thank you. I won't repeat the GMO information except to say, in my estimation, that's the most consequential policy issue we're going to work on this year. I know the GMO can be confusing, and a ballot measure amending it can be confusing, and I'm just going to reinforce the invitation from staff. I'm pretty sure I speak for the council members to say they'd be interested in doing this. We're going to do a lot of informational outreach in the months to come, but if there are groups, people who feel like they need more information, please let us know. We want to help with that. And lastly, I'll just note that unfortunately we seem to be in fire season again. We sent a crew actually last night to the Crystal Fire in Napa, just one engine company, so no impact on our local staffing. But I don't think in my time here we've ever sent a crew this early in the season. It's been a weird year with the late March rain. A lot of people, we're going to do weed mitigation at our next council meeting. Hopefully most people are handled by then. We've struggled to get our city facilities mowed and treated. It just, everything grew like crazy late in the year all at once. But people are getting friendly notices of violations from the fire department. We give people lots of time to get everything taken care of, so we don't want to be punitive. But we're out there tracking that. So we encourage everybody to put some attention on that. See, I don't want to make a prediction about what kind of year it's going to be, but it's been a pretty challenging spring in terms of vegetation and heat and where that's going. We're also going to do some pretty aggressive prescribed burns up around Fitch Mountain Villas, as we do most years now, but also on the top of Fitch Mountain, which will be something a little bit different and new. That'll be coming in the next handful of weeks, is my estimation. We coordinate it with Cal Fire. We will do a ton of outreach, so when people see smoke, they understand what's going on, but you can expect to see, I think, more work in that regard this year than we've done in some time, maybe ever. So I think that's a good thing, but we understand there's some challenges and some messaging we have to do. So sorry to report it's hot and dry out there, but we're trying to be on top of it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear about the GMO too. It's something that we've, struggled with for a long time, trying to get that turned around. I like the approach of specifying the areas. I think that's been a drawback in the past when we tried to pass something, and I champion your efforts for that. Good idea. Anybody else have anything that they want to bring up before we close out the meeting? If not,
Daniela has just a quick update on a Shop Local campaign, or a Go Local campaign that we're running in partnership with the city through our economic development contract. And then Amanda just wanted to mention a few dates on the barbecue, and that's it for the chamber side. So Daniela.
Yeah, just quickly, the chamber's gearing up to begin rolling out our Go Local campaign tomorrow. And like Talia mentioned, this campaign is created based off the sales tax leakage, and it will highlight the benefits of shopping local in our community and share deals that are available for locals to take part in. And this campaign will consist of 3 sections, each focusing on different subjects, which are benefits of going local, local dining with great deals, and then retail shopping local. And each section will include a blog post and supporting social media assets. So we're really excited to encourage the community to start shopping local and continue shopping local and highlight so many amazing businesses in our town. So be on the lookout for that.
All right. That it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you
Oh,
in.
sorry. I think Amanda had an update.
Oh, I'm sorry, Amanda. Yeah, sorry.
I'll go really quick, Mark. Next Thursday, the Healdsburg Senior Living is doing a networking mixer. Would love to have you all come. It's from 4 to 6. You can get tickets on Eventbrite. And Upstairs Art Gallery is also going to be there doing art demonstrations. This is a pretty cool facility. I'm sure most of you have been. If you haven't, anybody that you know that might be considering some sort of housing later on for parents, if you know anybody that needs to come check this out, they're going to have wine and food and farm animals and all kinds of cool things to make it a cool mixer for the community. So next Thursday, and then save the date for August 21st. It's our annual barbecue. It's going to be at Rodney Strong again. The tickets are live for that, also on Eventbrite. So watch for more to come in the next couple of weeks on sponsorship opportunities and ticket sales and all that. We'd love to have all of you there, of course. So thanks, Matt. I saw your tickets come through for the mixer. So I'm glad that you'll be there. We'll see you next week.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you again. And on behalf of the chamber, we really appreciate all of your participation and of course the keynote speakers as well. Look forward to seeing you guys in August. Take care.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.